Just to get us warmed up, as a reminder, this is the for Sea Change session. This is what we've been calling finance panel, learning how you can make impact in some ways that you may not have thought of. I'm assuming that many of you who are here saw the actual panel earlier, so we won't cover that, and I won't spend time on intros because we want to answer your great questions. So I'm going to start off with, I'll take one from the chat box, and then I see one person waiting in the panel, so we'll bring them in. So question from Nathan for Ravi. Can you just talk about Atmos is it a bank, is it not a bank? What does that mean?
Sure, I put a little in text, but basically Atmos, like other fintech companies, most fintech companies, we are a software platform that works with regulated entities. So if you look at most neobanks, I believe Aspiration's the same, and Venmo, PayPal, just pretty much every fintech company works with regulated banks and their infrastructure to provide their services, but through a more modern app. So you sign up with Atmos, your money comes through Atmos, sits at a regulated bank to provide FDIC insurance, but then we, through our partnerships and through these relationships we're structuring, we get to direct where it goes to deploy it for clean energy, electrification, and then other climate positive infrastructure as we build out these other programs.
Thanks. So let's we're going to bring someone on stage. This is Liz Knickerbocker. Liz, I think I'm bringing you on stage here. Liz, can you hear me? You disappeared. Okay, so we'll go to another question then. Looking through the list here. You guys are doing a great job answering in the chat. So question here, I'll go to the answer. So how do you compete with other non-purpose driven banks competitors when you're trying to attract investment from traditional investors? So who would like to take that one? Just give me the high sign or just unmute yourself and take it away.
Alex, you want to go? I have an answer because we don't compete with them. Like, we're going after different customer bases. If you look at Chime, Dave, Varo, they're sort of the three. Well, Varo is now a regulated bank, but Chime and Dave have amassed a huge amount of investment, and they're probably the best well known. They're primarily going after serving the underbanked and unbanked. So services like 2-day early payday. So they're competing against payday lenders and trying to reduce the reliance on those services, which are usurious and predatory. So that they're serving that customer base. We're serving the people who are in the clean energy and climate space and have been in this industry for 10, 20 years and want their money to be aligned with what they do on a daily basis.
Ben, did you want to chime in on that one, or Alex? Anyone else?
I would. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I would just say that we do compete with traditional banks. I think when you look across the spectrum of banks in the United States, I think the largest banks, the ones that you see the branches and their ATMs on every corner, unfortunately, they're some of the dirtiest and largest fossil fuel financiers around the planet, and so we do try and compete with them because as a bank, just like everyone else who's on this panel, as a fundamentally different type of financial service company, we do try and work hard to differentiate ourselves on our environmental policy, our diversity policies, our footprint, everything. So, at Bank of the West and BNP Paribas, we're not looking for investors, so to speak, outside our original shareholders. So we do compete with those largest banks day in, day out for customers.
I think the thing that I would add is that in some ways, we do, of course, compete with everyone, right? We are, offering a different kind of financial service that does, match your value with your values. But at the same time, we are not looking to exclude other people. However, Aspiration very much has a philosophy that ultimately companies that are caring about the environment, the climate, or caring about all of these other factors other than just the bottom line are ultimately going to do better for people and the planet. And so part of it is incumbent on us to be educating people who think that they're only interested in traditional banks on what the differences are and how, you know, all of their actions matter. And so there's a little competition. I would say we don't go after people who are not, you know, for marketing and all that. We really focus on people who are interested in Aspiration for our mission, because if you want higher interest, you can probably find it somewhere else. But that's not, you know, that's not where we focus.
Thanks team. And there's another question in here from Lucy. Would love to hear this group's perspectives on how to make finance more accessible across income levels with more future forward solutions. So great question. So who would like to start us off on that one?
Well, I think everybody on this panel probably has an answer to that, because we're all in the business of putting sustainable finance within reach of everyday consumers. So I think everyone's going to have a great answer. I'll start with us, and obviously, Kate, you as the moderator, this is kind of a layup for me. Is you know, we've put together the 1% for the Planet account that allows anybody, you know, not just a fancy wealth investor or a commercial customer looking for a sustainability impact loan or something like that. But it really allows anybody to take their everyday paycheck and their everyday spending and put it into 1% for the Planet account that gives 1% of the revenue of the product back to an environmental cause and lets you track the carbon impact. So that's the solution that Bank of the West has, but I'm sure that my panelists also have their solutions as well. So I'll shut up.
Yeah.
So, do you want to go?
Okay. I'll go next.
I'll just, you know, talk about kind of the investment side of, you know, of finances, because we're also focused on the banking piece, but it's also where you're, you know, where you're investing your cash as well, not just where banks are putting your money. And so, you know, we look at what we've done with the Redwood Fund, which has incredibly low minimum investments, and you know, so it's, you know, making things like that really accessible as well, and looking at how companies can really make sure that they're not putting unnecessary hurdles, unnecessary fees in front of people, where there are places that you know, banks are being a little selfish with the fees that they're charging. Those don't always need to exist, certainly for certain groups too.
Yeah. And, you know, to this question, it's like, we talk about, you know, you can carry your bank with you, like this is the future. But those of us in this, everyone attending, we're a privileged group because I'm talking on a $2,000 computer on high-speed internet. A quarter of New York City's population doesn't have internet. Like a big portion of the Bronx, they do not have high-speed internet. And so if we want people to be able to have our types of accounts, we need to be able to first provide them with internet. That's a huge inequity that has really shown its ugly head during the pandemic. We say, oh, you can learn from home, you can bank from home, you can do all this stuff from home. But if they don't even have this sort of basic utility, so we need to start there. And that's one thing that you know, we're starting to look in, is like, how can we help expand internet access for those people who don't have it? And then going beyond just, okay, here's an app. There's this great movement for embedded banking. Well, what if when you go to the grocery store, you can say, hey, I just got this $100 from my grandma. You could pay for your groceries, and then what's ever left, you could then deposit it through your grocery store, and then it goes into your bank account. So you don't need to make an extra trip. So this is how we'll really reach everyone, is by providing banking services to where people are, and helping them to get access to the services that they need for these.
Such great points all around. So, you know, it speaks to the types of products that banks have, but also the ways that people can access those. And it sounds like on the access side, there's many more, you know, infrastructure needs outside of the banks or the finance system themselves that need to be addressed. So, you know, that's a big systems challenge. And, you know, you had referenced some the Bronx, where I live, there's also, rural areas. There is a big problem as well. So, I think it's really important to point that out. So thank you all so much. That's a super helpful answer. Going back up, Tim, it seems like Madeline gave you some great responses there, but there is the question from Tim that might be good to get some reflections on here. Basically, major traditional banks cause significant questions both on ethics and positive change. So how to search for a banking provider, keeping all of those variables in mind. And Madeline, thanks for pointing out there's a one resource that you mentioned, The Ethical Consumer. There are many others that I know people are aware of, but team here on the panel, are there other guidance, is there other guidance that you would give people on how to sort of filter through all the information that's out there to find providers that are aligned with values?
1% for
Go
the
ahead, Ben.
/member.
Oh, sorry.
The other thing that I would add, just because I think so many banks, they have great marketing departments and they've got lots of pledges and promises and commitments, I think sometimes creates a great deal of greenwashing and great deal of confusion as to where does a financial institution actually stand. And so I think you need to kind of push that to the side and you need to look deep. And if I look at the banks and the fintechs that are on this panel today, you look carefully and you're going to see policies. You're not going to see promises. You're going to see what they do and what they do not do with your money. And I think that's incredibly important. So even if you go to some of the largest fossil fuel financiers, they will show pretty pictures of wind farms and solar farms that they financed. And that'll give you the impression that they're doing all the right things. But I think you need to dig deeper. And the companies that are loud and proud about what they do and what they don't do, you're going to find their policies. You're going to find it with Atmos. You're going to find it with Aspiration. You're going to find it with Bank of the West. And so I tend to look for policies, hard policies that are published publicly. And I think those are a great indication of a financial institution.
And I think you can even go beyond that. So, look at the number of billboards with windmills and things that the institution puts out, and be like, okay, there's an inverse correlation or relationship between the size of their marketing budget and what they do, and not necessarily the size, because just the big banks have big, but it just how much are they putting towards the marketing versus actual action? Like, what are they doing with your money? Saying, no, we're moving away from Arctic drilling. We're moving. It's like, great, but are you putting that money now towards clean energy, towards an equitable transition? That's what we need to look at. And also just corporations in general. We're seeing so many net zero commitments. Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to do this by 2030, 2050. And then there was a great report that came out just the other day. Not the Banking on Climate Chaos report by Rainforest Action Network, which you should all look at, which shows the top 60 banks. But this one looked at the net zero commitments of Amazon, Microsoft, and all these corporations. And you can see it's like, here's the promise, here is the capital. Like, almost no one is actually reallocating capital to do what they're going to say that they're going to do. So that is, it's like, are they putting their money where their mouth is?
Going to put myself in the shoes of like myself, and that would be a lot of work to figure out all of what you've just suggested. So, is there a way to that, a consumer, or to pull in one of the questions that also has been asked here, that companies can really think about, like, how do they switch their banking? How can they, access in ways, that are easily accessible and easily computable which banks to choose?
Yeah, well, if they're here, they're probably a member of or know of 1% for the Planet. So we're all members of 1% for the Planet. So you can go to 1%fortheplanet.org/members/banks, I believe, or just search for banks and they will find us and a few others. There's the B Corp, the B List. There's the Global Alliance for Banking on Values. More globally, there's the UN's Principles for Responsible Banking. So there are growing consortiums. So let me just put in howtodivest.org. As You Sow puts out a fossil-free funds tool, fossilfreefunds.org, if you want to look for your investments. So there's quite a few tools that if you search for, you'll be able to find. And then
awesome. Thank you.
Europe as well.
Thank you, Ravi. That's super helpful. And
what I might,
go ahead.
I was just going to add, I think this is part of the opportunity is that consumers they have no problem, flipping over their granola to see if it's got GMOs in it. They have no problem checking their eyeliner to see if it's tested on animals, and their yogurt to see whether or not it's made with organic milk or not. And I think that the opportunity is that people need to start paying attention to their finances as well. To the point that Alexandra made, just even with your 401k, where is that money going? And in your bank, what are those deposits? 90 cents out of every dollar gets redeposited or gets reinvested out in the real world, and that money does something. And so I think the opportunity is that people have the same reflexive nature with their money that they do with very, very many other aspects of their personal life.
So that there's still a large disconnect that remains, between what I'm doing with my money in my wallet and how I'm acting, and what my money is doing when it's not in my wallet and when 90 cents out of that dollar is going away. And so I think that it is incumbent on those of us that are on this panel and everyone that's here to figure out how we get the word out more about the true impact. I mean, obviously this Banking on Climate Chaos report is incredible. Many people will see it. A large portion of people will not, don't even understand it. And so, I think that's a really big takeaway. For me is, how do we not just focus on the services that we're providing as Aspiration, but the impact that, the positive impact that financial services can make in a much broader way. And it's education, it's access, it's all of those things, but it's also a basic understanding that your dollar isn't just sitting there going to sleep when it's not in your wallet.
Again, maybe let's try and connect the dots a little bit, because, if you think about the choice people make about their bank, they're, maybe making that, I don't know, a few times in over a few decades, right? Whereas you're buying yogurt or granola every week, maybe. So, we don't have as many opportunities. So, the education and marketing is a little different. So that's one factor. And then I want to sort of point us back to we get more these brands and cities to bank responsibly, because it does seem like there's educational opportunity in that, not to mention the moving of some, bigger dollars. So, let's tackle, both of those a little bit. Who would like to, think about that sort of marketing challenge and just the role of companies, brands, and cities? How do we get them involved in this banking movement?
Sure. I'll jump on the second one of how do we, go for the larger orgs. And this question was asked during the video this morning, or the showing of our previous session. The bigger the org, the bigger the bank they need. And so you have these massive corporations, even the ones that are in here, the Patagonias, the Sierra Nevadas, these really large institutions, they need large banks. So they couldn't come to an Atmos to be serviced. And so what they are, what many orgs are doing, are looking to see, okay, what can we have serviced by smaller orgs that are mission aligned? And where can we support the growth of a small regulated bank so that it can grow into a large enough mission aligned bank, so that we can actually have these larger orgs, corporations, switch over their money, because even the large ESG and institutional funds that are focused on this mission, they still have to keep their cash with these big banks, and then that may, unless they have it ring fenced somehow, it is still going to fund fossil fuels and other societally negative aspects. So it's a thorny problem, but we need to just keep chipping at it. And ultimately, we need to inspire, push, prod, and punish the big banks to get them to accelerate their own transition away from funding fossil fuels and towards this equitable clean energy transition.
Anything you want to add on that one, or just thumbs up to Ravi's eloquence?
I'm just, kind of in my head thinking about how it's like it's a global problem that we're talking about, right? It's not work that like Aspiration can just do or that Bank of the West can do. It is really about this kind of like global reckoning with the challenge that we're facing with the climate, and people really wanting to take action, even if it means maybe a little less money for themselves. And I think that's where the crux of the issue is with large institutions, wanting to move away from fossil fuel or divest, and even large corporations really focusing on, their carbon impact and all of that. And so I don't have an answer. I wish I did. I think it is the challenge that we face. Like, I think that is it kind of in a nutshell. Like, how do we get more people to want to take action, to become aware, and to, give a poop about getting this done for themselves and for the planet. So I don't know.
The only thing I'll add is I do think, going back to Ravi's point about holding larger institutions accountable, I think, the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge that recently sort of went up for auction, but you had a lot of financial institutions band together and say, we are not going to finance extraction or development activities in ANWR. And it was really great to see nothing get developed as a result of there was no financing to make it happen. And I think we're starting to see that in other sectors as well, is where people are saying, we're not going to do coal, we're not going to do fracking, we're not going to do tar sands. And I think having multiple industries and multiple competitors bind together and say we're not going to do that is a big part of how progress is going to be made. I think people have to have strategies for transition, and I think because we as a race and as a planet, we've got to find a better way to develop, generate, and consume energy. And I think it's going to take, to the point that Alexandra made, it's going to take a lot. It's a big global problem, and so coordination and cooperation are going to be key.
One personal action I'd like to just point in that people can do is on the either city or county side, if there is a public banking movement or initiative in your area, support it through a phone call to your representative or senator. And what public banking is essentially creating a bank that will hold our tax dollars. So your city, county, state tax dollars. And then then for local infrastructure projects, the city would then borrow from that bank versus from a Chase or Wells Fargo. And so these projects will be much less expensive for us as citizens. And also that money can also be used to extend the private capital, like for Atmos loans, it can actually amplify that to provide more capital for clean energy infrastructure. So it can be used for that, and it's only holding our tax dollars. It's not competing in the marketplace, so it's not socialism or anything like that. It's really just how do we use our own money better? So support that and push if you work for a big corp, push them to start carving off portions of their banking relationship to mission-aligned entities.
So along the lines of how do we use our own money better, Connor had a question that gets into that. So from a marketing perspective, how do your groups, all of you, principals, start managing their money more responsibly, thus leading to larger balances, thus leading to larger positive impact? So, financial literacy question as that ties to driving positive impact. Ben, you look like you're nodding away on that one. Do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I think that was something that we learned very early on, that there was a eureka moment. And we actually did some person on the street interviews in California. And then we actually did them with business owners at the OR show in Colorado a year or so ago. And we actually captured on film that aha moment when either a president, a CFO, or a consumer realized that their money was actually acting against either the best interests of their company or against their values. And so we're in the process of pulling together with a couple of folks on this panel a sustainable finance curriculum to kind of teach people what they should be looking for, teach people what questions they need to be asking. A lot of the questions that are showing up in the chat right here. What do I need to ask a financial services provider? What should I be looking for? Those sort of things. And I think that education and awareness are critical. And I will tell you, after looking at hours and hours of films of people in that one moment when they realize that their dollars that they're depositing into a bank are doing the exact opposite of what they're trying to do. So I think education is key. And so pulling together a sustainable finance education program and curriculum in the year 2021 is one of my team's #1 priorities.
Enough.
You unmuted first.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome that you guys are doing that, Ben. I'm certainly excited to see what that is all about. I would say from my perspective, that's very much where Aspiration has kind of stood in this space, is around educating and driving it home. And we've done a lot of that through marketing campaigns. There's been some other educational tools that we've launched over the years, but that it's something that needs to continue to be developed and do it in a way that it isn't just coming from one financial institution, because this isn't about just one of us and having the assets to make our assets work in a certain way. It's about all of us together. So I think it's also something that it needs to go down to the college level, right? Be integrated into education and beyond in high school. And at the same time that kids are being taught about finances at the most basic level, like this concept of your money just goes to the bank and that's where it is. That's not where it is. That's not where it ends. So there's, at every level, the education needs to be enhanced around this.
Yeah. So in addition to sort of the sustainability side, so on the financial literacy and wellness side that I think Connor was getting to, is there's an education piece to it, and then there's also sort of an app design piece to it. Like, we actually want to take a lot of this out of the hands of the individual, and just how do we build our applications so that the person is naturally gravitates towards saving more, spending less. Just in how you show somebody the money can affect if they're going to spend more than they should. So there's some very subtle things that we're doing, not to trick anyone, but to improve their financial situation. So there's a lot that's there's a whole financial wellness consortium, and there's a lot of movement in this within the fintech space to how do we support people to save more money, and also just the lack of fees. It's overdraft fees, monthly fees, all of these different things that the fintechs are moving away from, that the legacy banks have done, is supports consumers to improve their financial situation.
There's a sort of follow-up question in the feed about how people can loop about Ben, the financial literacy program that Bank of the West is developing, but I would imagine Ravi and Alexandra for the work that you're doing as well. So how can people connect to these opportunities moving forward?
I would say follow some of the great organizations that are around. We'll talk about 1% for the planet, but I think follow Protect Our Winters, follow Conservation Alliance. There's some great organizations that are a part of this. That Atmos. Let's I would say follow them because you're going to hear a lot more about this in the coming weeks. So follow them on social media, and you'll see when this comes out for sure.
Yeah, it's a great point. I'll share. I'm connected with all these folks on LinkedIn, and so if you want to connect me on LinkedIn, we can certainly. That's one avenue.
Yeah.
Organizers, how much more time do we have? We have lots of good questions here, but I'm sure we don't start going deep when we have to be cutting ourselves off. So I'm going to keep on rolling. Okay, great. Message received. I will keep on rolling. So team, stay focused because we've got some more good questions here. So this one I'm going to read verbatim just because it's a detailed one. So from Kevin, any thoughts on integrating alternatives to US dollar flat currency with its intentional 2% loss in purchasing power per year, courtesy of Jerome Powell, et cetera? Or at all. It seems to me part of the problem contributing to inequality is most people's stagnating wages don't allow them to own assets capable of beating this inflation rate. So who would like to take that one?
I'm not sure if that's a crypto question or a foreign exchange question. I mean, so we'll be offering foreign account, like we'll be going international with Atmos and offering foreign exchange. As we're moving more towards into the regulated space, it's harder to integrate cryptocurrencies right now. The best we can do is work within the fiat currency environment, and then as crypto and as cryptocurrencies become more tradable and more fungible. Right now, they're so volatile that they shouldn't be treated as a currency. They are speculative investments at best. That we will be able to integrate those and you will be able to use those for trade. But having them be within the true currency environment could lead to actually greater inequality and financial unwellness. So it's a tricky balance that we need to play there.
I just want to take a crack on that one, and then I'm going to close this out with one last question.
So
Go
to
ahead,
echo
Ben.
the comments that Ravi made on crypto, I think I would say that yeah, we're looking at crypto as something to integrate into the banking experience. But again, I think what Ravi says is exactly right. Assuming that that's a lock to outpace inflation would be speculation, not investment. And so I would caution against there. But I also think that making high yield, high return, sustainable investments are a big part of this as well. And just making sure, imagine if you just think of coal and you just think of stranded assets, and imagine if instead of shorting, stocks like AMC Theaters and GameStop, but you were shorting the coal industry or shorting the fracking industry, and somebody could come up with a great hedge fund that was short on fossil fuels and some of the extractive technologies, but long on renewable energies. I think we could create an investment that would easily outpace the inflationary limitations of the U.S. dollar. So I'll leave that provocative thought out for a little bit, Kate, and let you ask your last question.
Great. And I'm going to combine last question with kind of a wrap-up question. So from Julian, we have a question of what is the role of business and corporations to pressure larger banks to create default fossil fuel-free funds? So that's the question as a sort of how that can play a greater role in climate action. And I guess what I want to add to that to give you each a kind of last word is, that's one form of action. What's another? If there are other forms of action that you would just want to invite people to step into as a takeaway from this, what would that be? So either, answer the question, or if there's another action that you would want to get out there. And we'll just go right around. So we'll go Ravi, Ben, Alex.
Yeah. If there's one action, take a look at your banking relationship, and whether it's maybe not changing everything out, it takes a lot of work to change out. It's like, oh, I pay this and this and this and this, but maybe open an additional account, move some of your money. We have a savings account, move some of your money to one of these orgs, and we will help you there. Take that one action, takes less than 5 minutes.
Ben, over to you.
I'll build off that and sort of carry on from my last answer is, I think it's one thing for a CEO to find out that a bank won't lend them money because they're in a particular industry, and they go, it's all right, I'll just go to another bank and they'll loan it to them. And I think going back to the Banking on Climate Chaos report, you're going to see that there are plenty of banks out there that'll loan to the fossil fuel industry, the tobacco industry, all kinds of stuff. But one thing a CEO doesn't like is when people dump their stock. And so I think looking very carefully at your 401k investments and seeing what's in there and seeing that's going to get the attention of a company right away when all of a sudden they see that their stock's being dumped out of investment sleeves and mutual fund portfolios. And so it seems small. But everyone tends to have, not everyone, but a lot of people do tend to have a little bit of money in a 401k or an IRA or something. And I would say look very carefully at that in addition to your banking relationship.
We'll kind of round out the look very carefully conversation we're having and extend that to look very carefully at the places that you are spending your money on a daily basis, because that's sort of the complete cycle. So you're spending your money with some organization. You have to really look at the ethics, look at what causes that company is supporting, look at the products, look at your product labels. It is as, as detailed as making sure that your eyeliner isn't tested on animals. But it goes up from there because oftentimes many of those values are aligned. And so the thing that I would, like to leave everyone with is words matter, actions matter, where you spend your money matters, and how you spend your money matters. And so, just raising awareness for the power that, that your dollars have no matter where they are.
Great. Thank you so much. And Julian, just to kind of land on your question, I think for individuals and companies, we have a huge opportunity to talk more about these actions that Ravi, Ben, and Alexandra have shared with us. Talk about it. I think at least in US, and I think this is, fairly widely shared, we tend to talk less about money than a lot of other things that are probably even more personal than what we do with our money. But get it out there, let people know. And that helps to spread the word about the options that are out there, because we often are following our peers, whether it's our company peers or our individual peers. So, I just invite you to make those choices and then to talk about them, because that truly makes a difference. So I think with that, we'll wrap it up. But thank you all so much. What a great panel. And I know there's some questions we didn't get to. I think we tried to get to most of them. But thanks so much for being such an active and engaged audience. And thanks to these great panelists for being here and for your great work in the world.